The president feels that way. Senate Intel chair and Harvard alum Tom Cotton joins us now, and Harvard is going to come up in a second. But first, on the message to Iran, he didn't say military action in this setting, but he has said it before. What are the parameters for this deal so it doesn't look like the Obama deal?
Well, Brian, President Trump has been very clear. Just last week, he said it's complete dismantlement of their nuclear program. If Iran has any centrifuges, if it enriches uranium at any level, that means it can enrich it up to weapons grade. That's exactly what's been happening over the last 4 years under Joe Biden's tenure. That's what Steve Witkoff, his special envoy, on Friday said is a red line, any enrichment capability, because it puts them on a path to a nuclear weapon. And President Trump is right, too, that it's not just Iran's enrichment and their nuclear weapons, it's their other actions as well. You know, they have a missile program that might be able to reach the United States in just a few years. So this is not just a problem for the Middle East. And they support terrorists throughout the regions like Hamas and Hezbollah. So he's willing to give Iran a chance to change its behavior, but I also know that he's not willing to let Iran tap him along. As he said, this is coming to a head. There's going to be decisions made in the weeks ahead.
Senator, I think you know the foreign minister of Iran went to Saudi Arabia over the weekend before we got there. And they made an offer, reportedly, said, why don't we form an enrichment consortium, the UAE, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, and we'll enrich outside our countries like UAE is allowed to now because they want nuclear energy. How do you feel about that proposal? Because there's some people in Iran that say it didn't happen, but if it was brought forward and presented to Steve Witkoff, would you be interested?
Well, the president has said that he's doubtful about a civilian nuclear program as well. But I think it's at least worth putting that question to the Ayatollahs. They've always said that they'll never give up the capability to enrich uranium, and that's because they want a nuclear weapon. They don't really care that much about civilian nuclear power. But as you said, UAE and a couple other dozen countries around the nation, they have civilian nuclear power, and they don't enrich uranium. They buy it in ways that are safe and verifiable and can't be reprocessed into weapons. So let's see what Iran has to say about that. That's one of the things that Steve Witkoff is putting to them as a question. I suspect, as has always been the case, they're going to continue to try to delay and drag this out because they want that path to a nuclear weapon. But as President Trump has said again just yesterday, we'll never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapons program.
The reason why I brought up Harvard is because the amount of where we're going now is Qatar. The President of the United States bringing his delegation is going to land there within 30 minutes. And at which time it's pretty obvious that Qatar has big investments in this country. And when it comes to our higher education, how about this? $342 million. Your thoughts about what Qatar gets from that? And do you look at them as an ally? Because I think they got special favored nation with NATO's status.
Well, Qatar helps us in various ways. We have a base there, but unfortunately they play both sides of the aisle. They're not the kind of reliable ally that, say, United Arab Emirates is, or Saudi Arabia is, especially over the last 10 years under the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia. For instance, Al Jazeera helps promote radical Islamic extremist views throughout the region. Recently, you had protests inside of Gaza against Hamas. Imagine that. And it was covered in every Arab capital except for Qatar because Al Jazeera refused to cover it. Yes, they host Hamas, and that provides a forum for Israel to host Hamas, but hosting Hamas doesn't mean that you have to put them up in a penthouse at the Four Seasons or send hundreds of millions of dollars back to Hamas inside of Gaza. So I think the president will address some of Qatar's actions that are, frankly, not very helpful to the United States or our friends in the region, while also recognizing that we have a military base there and we do have important ties with them.
Senator, thanks so much. And by the way, we didn't have time to get to it, but you are in support of lifting the sanctions on Syria, and you have an important voice. And I know the administration really listens to you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. You got it. Back in a moment.